Hi, it's Lena, and I've come on to answer the question of the questions, which is, do I have to eat processed foods in recovery? Do I have to eat anything that I consider unhealthy or bad or some other reason that I can't eat that? Do I have to eat those foods in recovery? Loaded question. Let's have a look at that. I'm an eating disorder recovery coach, and I feel that I have a few things to share on this topic, so let's dive right in. So technically, nobody can force you to eat anything in recovery. I never force my clients to eat a certain way. However, there are a few suggestions that can definitely make sense. So the first thing that you want to ask yourself if you are struggling with this question of whether or not you need to go back to eating some things that you don't want to eat is, why do I not want to eat those foods? And you really want to dig deep. Like, you don't want to be like, oh, I want to be healthy and that's why. Do you though? Because having an eating disorder is unhealthy, and you know that you're doing some unhealthy things in other areas of your life. So is that really the reason? Do you really just genuinely want to be healthy? Okay, that's something, right? But just ask yourself, what does health give me? Do I want to be healthy, or am I just really afraid of being unhealthy? And so you kind of want to figure out, am I operating from a place of genuine concern, or am I operating from a place of fear? And if you're struggling with an eating disorder, the answer is more often than not fear. And so you really want to move away from making fear-based decisions, and you want to make them love-based, right? From a place where you know what's good for you and what makes you feel good, and then you can do that. And of course, there's a certain reality to some foods making you feel better than others, and maybe whole foods make you feel better than processed foods. However, is that really just because of their physical reality, or do you also feel like a better person when you eat healthy things? Are you afraid of what might happen if you don't, right? So you really want to get down to it. And so if you find out that you eating only healthy, only whole foods is actually somewhat tied to your eating disorder, in a sense that, oh shit, you're actually afraid of not eating this way, and you really don't want to because you think like something bad is going to happen, then it may be worth challenging some of those clear food fears that are obviously there. So if you're afraid to eat processed foods, and then my answer to the question is, yes, you should eat some processed foods in your recovery. The thing is that if you weren't afraid of them, and if you just ate healthy things from the bottom of your heart because you just feel so strongly that you care about your body, you likely wouldn't have an eating disorder, but you do. So it's sadly very likely that you have a different agenda to that, and that you're just really afraid of those foods. And so in that case, it makes sense to incorporate them into your diet, because you want to get rid of the fear, right? You don't want to be afraid of that. And so a huge part of recovery is to dive into that fear and to see, okay, what am I actually really afraid of, right? That's part one, figuring out what would it mean for me to eat something that is unhealthy? What would I make that mean about myself? And to break out of this fear cycle that always keeps repeating itself and repeating itself and repeating itself whenever you're faced with a fear food, there comes a point where you have to actually eat it, because otherwise your brain is not going to not register it as a threat anymore. So you can do all of the mental work and you can do all of the inner work, but if you never actually go and do the thing, it's not completed, it's not fully resolved. And so yes, you likely do want to incorporate some processed foods in your recovery. Now, this doesn't mean that your recovery has to be only processed foods. Doesn't mean that you have to eat processed foods forever. It's just that you can use processed foods as a tool to dive deeper into why you're actually so afraid of these foods, and you can rewire your brain that way to not be so afraid of them anymore. The whole point is to really take away any moral value that food holds for you, because really the only value that food has is nutritional, and it can have like social value as well, right? If we go out and we eat with friends or family, but there's no moral value to food, and like no matter what you eat, it can't make you into a better or worse person. And so this is the whole point of going out on a limb and eating all these foods that you're actually afraid of, so that you can realize that eating these foods doesn't have an effect on who you are as a human being. I know a lot of people even go through a phase in recovery where they eat only junk food and they eat only processed foods, right? And that's also okay, but you also don't want to get stuck in that, right? Because you don't want to just run from your old extreme to the next extreme. Let's just like find some balance, right? So balance is key. Balance is achieved if you face your fears and if you incorporate some of the things that you're afraid of. And that's really my answer to the question. Can you recover on whole foods only? Probably not. Should you incorporate some processed foods? Yeah. Should you only eat processed foods? If you feel like it, you can do that for a little while. I wouldn't recommend doing that for like weeks and weeks and weeks and months. But yeah, of course, eat some processed foods just to allow yourself to get over the fear. So don't just force feed yourself processed foods. That doesn't really help either. Really sit with, what can this food teach me? There are so many more things that I could say on this topic, but I kind of want to keep it short for today. So let's end it right here, and I hope that you found this video helpful. Comment down below if you're someone who actually recovered on only whole foods, or if you feel like you needed to incorporate some processed foods, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. And that's what I'm going to leave you with today. Sending you much love. See you in another video soon. Bye.